again to this live chat with Stella. And I have an amazing, powerful woman of God with me today, Miss Grace Lian. She's been in my life for, Miss Grace, you've been in my life for years now. I mean, at least 8 years.
Thank you. Yes, it's been a privilege.
you Yes, you've been walking with me alongside through grief and anxiety and depression and just rediscovering who I am. And thank you so much again to being in my life. So I'm excited to host you today. There's people who are listening. They can have tools in their tool bag for their freedom, for their peace and joy. But before we go anywhere, on if you want to go, we have a scan, so you can scan the QR code and go to Miss Grace's website, and you can find every session and everything she's offering and all the tools. So feel free to do this. But right in the beginning of her website, it says, good well-being is a holistic way of being that combines a bio, psycho, socio, spiritual life. We move towards well-being holistically through non-judgmental and empathetic environment. As we appreciate our interconnectedness in this world, we will seek to broaden our understanding of others, ourselves, and live boldly and vibrantly. Life is a journey that has many hills and curving paths that lead us to the mountaintop. As we preserve to the summit, may we find lasting peace, joy, and love. It is a privilege to journey alongside someone to discover and rediscover joy, love, a deeper understanding of self and others. That is perfectly describing you, Miss Grace.
Oh,
Your,
thank you.
your gift and your passion to see others free, it's incredible. And so tell us a little bit about your journey and where you start and what is that drives you to help others.
It's definitely faith, right? It's also for us as Christians, it is also our calling, right? We are called
Yeah,
to be in this world to be a blessing. We are called to be in this world to use the skills God has gifted us with for His
that's right.
glory and for the betterment of our fellow brothers and sisters and neighbors and this world, right? The
That's right.
greatest commandment is love your neighbors as yourself. So if we
That's right.
want personal healing, love, joy, justice, mercy, grace, we got to be able to help others around us to achieve that, and as well as our community and therefore the world, right?
That's right. Yes. And you've been in this business in the psychology, counseling, psychiatry area for over 25 years, correct?
Yeah, I did my undergrad, and I was
Yeah.
very sure when I did my undergrad, this is what God called me to do. Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely. I can raise both of my hands. I am in agreement because, yeah, I witnessed the gift that is in you that flows out and was leading me in my mountaintops and through valleys. And so today we want to talk about really anxiety and trauma. So
Yeah.
give us a little bit of background, symptoms, so what people can really pinpoint, and then let's just go from there.
Okay. So trauma and anxiety, they are related. Now, not all anxiety is trauma. That's definitely not true.
Mhm.
But what we want to talk about today is how trauma and anxiety are related. So oftentimes people will experience anxiety symptoms. They will go to their doctor and say, well, I experience a lot of pain, aches and pains. They will may even experience something even more severe, and they will have, like, I actually have blindness, periodic blindness. So it's not really I'm blind, but it's periodic. Or they
Yeah.
will experience something even greater where it is so painful I can't walk. And
Mm.
and when I'm walking, I'm limping, or I feel like there's pins and needles, or I'm swaying. So it's very much starts off as physical symptoms, or I have headaches that don't go away, right? Or I
Yeah.
can't sleep, but there's really no reason why I can't sleep. I just can't sleep. And then there are also mild ones where people experience, I have a little pain in the neck, but it goes on and off. It's not a big deal. So,
Mhm.
or whatever it is. And I learned through doing my doctoral studies at a hospital in India, I learned
Mhm.
that we worked with conversion disorders. So this is patients
Mhm.
that actually experience severe symptoms of anxiety where you actually it's a psychosomatic illness, and it's created by our brain. There was actually, you do your MRIs, you do if it's a heart issue, we do your EKGs, whatever it was, we did all the proper testing, and it showed up as nothing, very clean, clear
Mm.
results. And so
Yeah.
it was actually there that I learned about the connection between faith and healing,
Mm.
and understanding trauma and healing.
Yes.
So that is where the beginning for me was, and I actually see that now in my work with anxiety patients who um, want to dig deeper because it comes back. They do anxiety treatment, but 2 years later it comes back. Then this is what we see.
And so that's all really is. I don't know if the camera is froze right now because you're just in one position, but
Okay.
so anxiety is really has a root cause to it, right? And
Yeah,
trauma really comes from experience from the past, and anxiety is just the result of it.
exactly. That's the trauma. Anxiety is actually the I guess you can call it the result, but actually it's also the way people cope with it. You know,
Mhm.
your brain actually wants to protect you. So by protecting you, it is actually creating symptoms to help you cope. You have
Yes.
it, for instance, your brain doesn't want to deal with the fact that you saw something traumatic. For instance, some of my clients, when I was doing the work, my research, had witnessed violence in the home. They don't
Mhm.
want to see that. So the
Mhm.
brain has somehow blocked that memory off. And so therefore, they will have blackouts or they won't sleep. If they've seen something that
Mhm.
triggers it, they go into hyperstimulation. Hyperstimulation, therefore, leads to the body to react. You're so extra adrenaline, cortisol in your body. So it is a physiological
Yes.
reaction. So psychological leading a physical reaction, and also therefore an emotional reaction, because
So
nobody likes to feel this.
let's see if we can get the camera back to you because it's like we want to focus on you more than me.
I'm okay with that.
And so why are we doing this technical stuff? But
Mhm.
so how can we help those who are listening, experiencing that they've been to the doctors, have all the results, came back clear, or have different symptoms like allergies? Certain stuff can linger around longer time because the body start to creating more symptoms. How can we really start out? Because some people don't have counselors that they can go through. So, what can they start out?
So the best thing to do is, if you're noticing you're having anxiety symptoms, always first go to the doctors to make sure there isn't any physiological, right?
Mhm.
So if indeed, if you are having muscle pain, there isn't because of a pulled muscle. If you are having breathing issues, it's not COPD. You know,
Yes.
if you are excessively tired, you might want to find out if there are some thyroid issues. So there are lots of reasons why you can have physiological symptoms. So always rule out any physiological reasoning.
Mhm.
Um, After that, then you might want to then consider lifestyle. Is it something you're eating? Sometimes as
Mhm.
simple as a diet change, a simple lifestyle change, that could help a lot. Like, you're not exercising enough, you're not getting enough um, relaxation time. So yoga helps, stretching helps, right? This kind of lifestyle thing. But if it goes deeper than that, then it's not just that. There's trauma. There's
Mhm.
something else that's triggering off your body to react in this fight or flight, setting off adrenaline, cortisol to protect you, and your body not wanting to deal with that feeling or memory. So then, I might want to get some counseling and therapeutic work.
Right. Because it's the one lady here was talking about that that's what happened to her, the blackout, you was talking about it
Mhm.
when she was a child in her marriage. So she basically started to blocking stuff out, but now she is dealing maybe with, and I'm not sure if she is, I'm just thinking of it, that if somebody is blocking out all those traumas,
Mhm.
the childhood abuse or abuse in the home or the blocking out what happened in the marriage, what can they start to, because they don't even recognize it comes, because sometimes your brain can literally push it back and you don't even notice that happened because you blocked it out of your memory,
Yeah,
correct?
correct. Absolutely. And also, it's not just like memories within the home. You got to also remember sometimes people will have trauma memories that are community related. So war, I had some client who actually was
Mm-hmm.
was in the car and witnessed the car accident. She was in the back seat. There was a car crash, and she
Mm-hmm.
witnessed. Her family members were witnesses. So that gave her a lot of trauma. Very scared of driving, she was. Never
Mm-hmm.
understood why, but then later on, when she was in not an abusive relationship, but a very controlling relationship,
Mm-hmm.
those bring those brought back those memories for her and
Mm-hmm.
helped her understand why she was really struggling with the very controlling relationship.
Mm-hmm. So when somebody is dealing with this flight or fight feeling and
Hmm.
the root cause is trauma, what is some tools that we can give them?
I think obviously it's very individual perspective. Every individual will have their own tools that helps them cope, and more importantly, though, each individual will hopefully come to a point where they just don't want to cope. They want to face it and get
Mm.
through it and then overcome it, right? And be resilient.
And it
But
is the hardest thing, Miss Grace, because
mhm,
I can just talk for my own self, okay? Let's use me as a guinea pig
yes,
because I've
yes,
been through a lot. And
yes,
so, for example, there is certain stuff that made me like, I didn't want to be by myself at home because coming out of the communism and certain
mhm,
stuff that I experienced, right? So I
yeah,
didn't like to be by myself at home. Certain stuff that triggered sweating and dizziness and all these symptoms, heart palpitation, feeling like I cannot take breath, all this fight and flight symptom.
hmm,
And I know my coping was okay, just get out or have somebody with me and have kids. And I was always active, very, very busy in life.
hmm,
And I'm still busy, but now over the years, I learned to face those symptoms. And
hmm,
when she was asking how to bring the fight and flight for my own self, I had to like, okay, I feel like about to pass out. Okay, don't be afraid of it. You will not die. So I allowed it to feel those symptoms.
yeah,
And whenever I start to feeling those symptoms, it was scary. It is
hmm,
definitely, it's not like, oh yeah, face it and then we'll go over. It is over weeks and months facing it one step at a time, not
hmm,
reacting to those. It started to becoming less and less powerful in my life.
yes,
So
exactly. That's
is
courage.
so
Yep.
that's what I really will anybody, whatever you are facing, I would you have to face it little by little. And for me,
Hmm.
it was also so journaling. I had to write it sometimes out what was in my thought life,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
when I write out what is in my thought life, I was able to analyze it. And it's like, hold on, it's not as big as I feel it or think about it in my mind. And it's
Hmm.
like, I can combat this. I am resilient. That's why I love your website, resilient. It's like
Yes.
I am, and especially when you was mentioned this, we need the whole being, the spiritual being,
Yeah.
who we are, who we created. That was my anchor.
Yes. Awesome. And that is the truth. That is what we're hoping to do in the therapeutic work. There's different modalities I can use. Some people, as you say, are ready. They're ready to face it. Some people aren't. So there's
Mhm,
different modalities that will help us get to those memories or those uncomfortable feelings or sitting with the symptoms.
mhm,
And as you said, face those symptoms to overcome those symptoms. There's different modalities we use. I use EMDR. I also use CBT and Lian for family work because,
mhm.
believe it or not, sometimes you'd be surprised that you don't even realize you've got trauma until you actually are in a very stressful, conflictual relationship. And then you
Yes.
wonder, why do I react the way? Or why does that spouse of mine, or why does that kid of mine really trigger me off? Like they sure know how to push my buttons. That's
Yes.
when we when we decide, oh, okay, maybe I got to look at it. And trauma,
Yes.
there's different kinds of trauma, as we talked about. Obviously, big trauma, war, violence towards you, but then there's
Mhm,
also trauma with witnessing violence,
mhm,
or even being in relationship with a person who has suffered violence,
mhm. Yeah.
so there's all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
Systemic violence that happens too, as we said, communism, right?
Yes.
There's all kinds of stuff that
Mhm.
might just hold us back or
Mhm.
give us triggers, and we just don't understand why.
So this lady is here addressing this flight and fight or this panic
Mhm.
happening while she's sleeping, and then
Yeah.
she also suffers from insomnia.
Yes. Then
So
I would definitely say that is anxiety and trauma. That's not just anxiety.
mhm. So what is the best way for her? Which direction to take? Because I know her personally, and she is doing the diet and went to doctor. So she all this from the physical side, it's basically taken care of, and then um, she's doing the diet and natural supplements. So it's really just dealing right now with the trauma, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I would say, as I said, there's different modalities to help each individual. And for me, I really believe in choosing the right modality to help that individual.
Mhm.
So I would definitely be open to talking to her, give her a free consultation to see which modality she would like to use if she's ready to face that trauma. Not everybody is. And
No.
that's okay too. We're all on a journey, right? So some people
Mhm.
take several sessions, several months, a year or two in
Yeah,
therapy before they build that courage to face it. But um, that's what this is about. That's why I call it a journey. It's
that's
not
right.
a one-stop shop. Come fix me. It's not
That's
about that.
So there is certain ways we was talking about it, but there's certain ways trauma is really affecting our behaviors.
Hmm.
So sometimes if we are not dealing with the trauma that happened in the childhood or in this broken marriage or in the past, there is triggers that come from trauma. And
Hmm.
sometimes by yourself, we are not able to detect those traumas because our behavior became natural reaction.
Hmm.
So sometimes you don't even may know, and I'm just talking to those who are listening, you may not even notice you had trauma, but your behavior, like for example, if you are in a big crowd and it's like, okay, I need to get out, it's too much, it's too hard, there's
Yeah.
certain behaviors, or you continually try to please people's, a people pleaser can be from trauma.
Yeah, it could be.
That is, so give us examples, kind of like behavior. What behavior do you recognize if somebody had trauma?
Again, that's this is very generic, right? And
Yes, very
it's never
Germanic.
set in stone. And I always say one thing. I think that's why I like learning psychology, but I also think it's true of God is that there's nothing we know as human beings that's 100%. And
Mhm.
as I learned in my Adlerian classes, is very much it could always be differently. We sit and hypothesize our little consultation groups. We hypothesize a case, but it could always be different until
Mhm.
you actually know and meet that person. And so for me, I think that when I talk to somebody, I actually want to be in the presence of that person and
Mm,
understand that person. And when I understand that person, then I can understand maybe there are trauma roots, maybe there isn't,
mm,
but we could explore. And the exploration is
mm,
what's key. There's times where I can actually talk to somebody and I experience, okay, there's definitely room for exploration here. And I think that also comes from within. Every human being knows there might be something. Maybe there was a time where somebody robbed or tried to rob me. They were like, "Yeah, Grace, I remember sometime." There's this time where I was in a crowd. We were at the CNE, that's in Toronto, this big fair, and I remember somebody trying to pull my purse. And ever since then, I don't like crowds, right? So then, okay, there's some trauma there. There's some, not major, it's not like the world's shattering or anything, but
mm,
that's probably why she doesn't like crowds. Totally understandable, right? And then when we
mm.
work through that, she's totally fine with crowds now, you know?
Yes, she's dealing with it now, but you have to deal with it. So I'm just encouraging everybody, and this is really the session that we have here with Miss Grace is really encourage you that you want to be free from within
Hmm.
because there is so many anxiety books and there's just so much out there, but you have to first and foremost want to be free at cost that is it is costly to get free because it's sometimes easy to stay bound because that's what I have been doing for decades. So
Hmm.
this is my norm. Spending money when I feel down, this is norm, or if somebody has a bad day, instead of, okay, they just have a bad day, I just go off on them like, how you dare treating me this way? All those stuff, we have to wanna be full of hope, full of joy, full of peace. And if you don't have peace, joy, faith, love in your life is not whole.
Hmm.
And the reason I brought Miss Grace here with us on this chat, because I've experienced my own self many traumas, but she is gifted. So it's different if somebody is going to college and get a degree and taught by the book what to do and how to tell you go left and go right and do this and do that, or somebody is called and gifted by God who can, through the Holy Spirit's help, pinpoint what's going on in your life, and then with the help of the Holy Spirit and the gift that she can finger point. I don't even know how to, like, have something just uniquely for you to get over and face those traumas. So that's why I put the link out. If you want, and like she mentioned, call her the first time and talk to her, and then from there, y'all can see what if she's a good fit or she can help you, she can guide you, whatever is needed. But my desire for every single one of you, it's to be truly free, not just the surface free. I want you to be free indeed, free mentally, emotionally, physically, not to suffer from those junk that is within us sometimes. And Miss Grace, you have traveled the world. I know you saw a lot.
Yeah, I think the word that's really awesome for this work that we're doing, and it's
Mhm.
all in Germany, this is the most perfect word. You can translate. It's called Seelsorge, and it's the soul carer is the translation.
Yes.
And when I learned that term, I said, I think that is something English language, in this, at least in the English speaking world, we don't have. We
Right.
call ourselves therapists and counselors, but ultimately, we're going for the soul.
That's right.
Ultimately, in my profession, whether it's psychiatry, psychology, counseling, therapist, whatever you want to call us, we are really all looking for something, looking for the soul. And unfortunately, we can't because only God can see our soul. We can only look at behavior. And from behavior, we deduce the
Mhm.
possible emotional pain. And from that, we're deducing the thoughts, combining it to deduce the soul. But understand, this is all human made. And it's a wonderful profession. I've studied it since it's my undergraduate since I was 18. And I've been privileged to work with other therapists and other psychologists and psychiatrists and theologians who are also trained in psychology.
That's right.
To bring it all together so that we can have a big, true, more accurate picture of the human being's soul that we are working with. So is what Stella said, let's look at this from the soul point of view. We want to look at healing that hits your heart, not just healing that makes me feel happy. We want healing that is.
And what is really God after? What is Jesus after? Is after the soul. I mean, because when we got born again, our spirit is already new creation. It's already sealed by the Holy Spirit. The soul is the battlefield. So he really came as a soul carrier, like you said. I really love the term too, by the way, Jamie. Yeah, she said, I love that description. But it's the soul, because the body, it's sometimes infused through the soul. All right. And so the soul carrier, what a powerful job to have. I don't envy you though, because that takes definitely a special gifting to do what you are doing. And
thank you. But I also have to say psychology has a lot of merit. I mean, psychology obviously is an entire field and faculty and an area of study. And I have to say that as this field continues to grow and learn, it also has come to a lot of research on what we're talking about. Forgiveness therapy is looking at a lot of things. It's a psych perspective, obviously, psychology perspective, but you can't do that. You can't do forgiveness therapy without actually thinking of soul. So the world is coming together to realize there is no discipline in this world that can stand alone. We need to all stand together. And that is why biopsychosocial spiritual approach makes the most logical, reasonable sense for well-being and holistic well-being. But I think all professions are realizing that as now.
That's awesome. And when you was talking about, forgiveness, this is the number one trap of the soul, of the mind. It's unforgiveness.
Yeah.
When you have trauma and somebody hurt you or whatever, sometimes there is unforgiveness and bitterness that is really anchor you down to behave a different way.
Yeah. So, and I think you've seen that yourself. You experienced that in Europe with the whole communist fight. Nobody's willing to forgive one another. Everybody wants to be right. My way is the right way. And I think that's the other thing we need to learn with trauma is learning to let go of ourselves.
Yes, and we can have a better world just by addressing ourselves, not just look, hey, this person needs help and this person needs help, and the politics and all that. We're looking on the outside, but let's just focus on us individuals. Healing, wholeness, soundness, and find the purpose. Because I believe you cannot fulfill your purpose without being really healed. Because you're operating in a minimum level of your gifts and callings if there's just so many layers holding you back to be free.
And when you're free, then you can actually impact the world. But if you're not free, you can't impact the world. And therefore, you're not benefiting your neighbors or your community.
That's right. That is awesome. Well, Miss Grace, you're awesome. You really are amazing. And when you know her, like individual sessions, oh my gosh. I mean, I just can't talk about myself, and especially going through the grief when my parents passed away. I was like, I'm falling apart. I lost my faith. I lost God. I lost everything, I felt like. And it was so awesome because Miss Grace was so gentle, but pinpointing, leading me. And I'm like, oh, I don't even recognize I had that in me. And oh my gosh, that is rooted in here. So I really encourage you to get a session with Miss Grace for your sake, for your healing sake. She's truly gifted and anointed. Is there anything else you want to say or talk about, Miss Grace?
I think you are you need to be we need to thank you for your enthusiasm, for your courage to face all that you have faced. Life hasn't been easy on you. And
Mhm.
I have to say, you are resilient. So it's been my privilege to work with you. And I
Yeah,
think everybody here who listens on to you can also see that you have overcome a lot. And God has said, we will be victorious in Him. And that is why you are victorious here, because God is in you and
yeah.
has helped you through this journey. And I see that. Totally
And
see
that's
it.
why I'm so passionate helping others
Mhm.
because I experience the help and healing. So I'm just passionate to get others in their healing journey and healing path.
Amen.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Grace, for your time. We love you. We appreciate you. And yes, she is a world traveler. She's from Canada, America, Germany, Malaysia, India. You are all over. And this is amazing because you are ministering to all the cultures.
Yeah, but also I think for me, it has been my privilege, just to add one thing, is that is why I think God gives us opportunities, and God gives me that opportunity so that I can better understand human beings. Because
Mm,
it's, with yes, my training has been so valuable. I thank my professors, thank all my papers, I thank everything I've read, but I also thank God for giving me life experience to challenge what I have read. And I think we've had some really interesting discussions on Europe because sometimes in North America, we don't understand. We don't quite see it accurately because we've been taught something from the book. But when we actually go there and I've experienced it and I see it, I
mhm,
understand something that I was never taught and I could never be taught. Just like your
mhm.
life experience, and I think we can talk a lot about Europe that way.
That's right.
When you experience it, you experience something nobody wants to talk about sometimes because it hurts too much to talk about.
Yes, that's right.
And that's where grace. So I think God gives me journey of seeing
Yeah.
different cultures is to teach me grace. And I
Mm.
am privileged. Thank you so much.
So you see, your name fits you perfect
That's so kind.
because you're extending and teaching grace. That's why you're Miss Grace. We love you.
Thank you so much. So I
Well,
will.
everybody, go back to this video if you need to get the QR code and get the QR code. Get on her website and reach out to her and become the resilient, amazing person God has created you. So we thank you, everybody, for being with us this afternoon. We love you all, and thank you again, Miss Grace, for your time.
Okay, thank you.